Hey, so I've got a couple of other tips on Slack today. A little while ago, I did this video talking about Slackbot and basically showing how to use Slackbot's responses to help other folks in your Slack get better at using Slack. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff you can do with Slackbot. So I'm going to show a few examples and then how to set them up here. So we've got a couple of messages here, and one of the things that's kind of useful with Slackbot is explaining acronyms. And so we've got someone here asking a question, hey, can everyone check their OKRs? But if somebody doesn't know what an OKR is, they might well go in the thread and be like, OKR? And we've set Slackbot up to come back and be like, hey, this is what OKRs are, and here's a link to Wikipedia explaining what they are. So that's like one example. Same kind of stuff you could do with any acronyms, really. Same thing, like DI, what's that? And again, Slackbot will come back in the thread where the question was asked with an explanation of what it is. Now, to set these kind of things up, this is the OKR one. So all we've done is gone into Slackbot and set it up so that it will respond to any of these comma-separated things. So what's an OKR? What is an OKR? And the one that we responded to is that last one. And it basically just comes back with whatever text you put in here. So this one's got a link in it, which is obviously kind of useful. It might also be useful for this kind of thing. So someone's put a raccoon on here. I made a Slack about what raccoons are a while ago, but they basically mean we've gone off topic with whatever this is. And it's kind of reasonable if you've got folks who don't know what that is in here, that someone's going to come into the thread and be like, raccoon question mark, like what's that all about? And again, same deal here. It's come in and responded with a link to an image here, right? Now I think if I do that in the main thread as well, well, I thought it would expand that, maybe not. Sometimes it'll expand these image links in here as well. And that's set up in exactly the same way, right? If we find the raccoon one in here, it's set to respond to the emoji. So these two colons, the word between colons, that's like the short code for the emoji for raccoon. So it will respond to like raccoon space question mark, all of these ones. So yeah, that's that stuff. So it's kind of useful for acronyms. You can imagine there's hundreds of acronyms, right? There's a few more in here, right, that we've got. But any acronyms pertinent to your business, you could put in there. It can also be really useful for kind of encouraging inclusive language. So, if you've got someone typing something like, man, that's crazy, you can have Slackbot respond to the word crazy with a message that's kind of nice, saying, hey, maybe think about using a different word. And there's a bunch of these, right? Like, I don't know, that's so insane. I don't know. Because again, there's some folks out there where the word insane is a little bit insensitive, right? Hey guys, here's another one. We can have Slackbot come back and suggest that we use some term that's not gendered. And actually, this one's set up to respond with different things. So it's not the same response every single time. So you can see these two responses are different. Now, the way that's set up, words like crazy or insane are set up in here, and they've got formatting as well. So like these little asterisks will format this word as bold, which kind of makes it a little bit easier to read, and see the kind of main points. But to do the multiple responses bit, if we find the guys one, which is kind of long, basically each one's on a new line. So this is one possible response, and Slackbot will randomly pick one of these many responses here, right? So this is the second response. So for any of these messages, if you want to kind of change it up a little bit and respond with different messages, just put them on a new line in this interface. So that's really useful. There's loads of these. One that I particularly like is the term grammar Nazi. I've been in a Slack before where people use that lots, and I don't know, it just doesn't seem right to talk about Nazis. It trivializes it, right? So like So like if someone types something like this, wherever they're at, Slackbot will come back and tell them, please don't use that phrase, basically. So that's kind of really powerful for encouraging inclusive language, and it doesn't require anyone to do anything, right? It literally just looks out for certain phrases and words, and then will respond. And that's the same for both explaining acronyms and explaining, explaining or advising people not to use non-inclusive language. We can also have some fun with it, right? So like there's a couple set up in here, I think. I think if I do this. No, maybe not. Oh, it's because I can't spell. If I do this, it'll come back with a link. And actually, if I hadn't used these further up in the thread, it would expand them out. So like if I head over to, I don't want to open any of these channels actually because I don't know what's in them. Maybe Slack Meta actually, because I haven't posted anything in there. So if I'm like, that one's too big, so it won't expand it. But like, yeah, it will expand out the image. And I don't know, like another one that's set up in here, like. So yeah, that shows it expanding out, and this can be kind of fun, right? Like, what can possibly go wrong? And I don't know, it puts a funny GIF in, and they're just set up really, really simply with a link to the GIF that you want. So it's got to be online somewhere. And then just put that link in, and Slack will automatically expand it unless you've already used it really recently. You can also do some stuff with emojis. So I think if we put cookie emoji in and just post that, it will respond with the cookie monster, obviously. So that can be kind of fun as well. So to set that up, again, it's the same format with those colons so that it will respond to someone posting an emoji. So that's kind of, there's a million things that you could do with this, in jokes inside your company and whatnot. And then there's some stuff for like commands, which is what I spoke about in the last one. So these can be kind of useful if I've got someone who's not using threads in a channel, right? There's no way of like detecting a keyword for that. So we've got a convention where if we type SB and then a keyword like thread, it'll post a message in there. So if I post this in as a human who's like, everyone here needs to start using threads a bit, Slackbot will respond with a canned message that says like, hey, we should use threads. And then I've got a link to a Loom video on how to use threads in here. So that makes it really easy for people to kind of learn that stuff. So there's a few more of these. We've got, I think SB whole will say, please use whole messages. And then, to set that up, just done the same way, right? We've got the words it responds to at the top, and then we've just put a link to the Loom in here. There's also a kind of interesting one. So I've got one set up for channel. So this is for if someone uses app channel or app mention in an inappropriate place, and it notifies loads of people. And this one's come back with another Slack message. So the actual message set up over here, if I can find it. Yeah, so it responds to SB here or SB channel, and it just sends back a link to another Slack message that is in the Slack somewhere. And because of how Slack works, when you post a link to another Slack message in an open channel, it will just kind of reprint that message here. So this is quite useful if you put some guidance up here, So yeah, that's like embedding links to other Slack messages in these Slackbot responses. And again, instead of me having to find it and type out all of this stuff, I can just type SB channel and it'll ping this stuff in here. We can also do some fun stuff with Slackbot if you want to, give them a bit of personality. So like thanks Slackbot, and Slackbot will respond with various messages. It can kind of be useful as well for stuff, if you've got someone who's maybe asking questions like, where can we modify, I don't know, modify. I don't know. We've got links to other channels in here. So if you use the Slack like hash channel format, it makes it easy for people to come here and then head over to this channel and update stuff. And again, that's set up just to respond to wherever it is. Modify Slackbot responses, change Slackbot responses, fix Slackbot responses, and it just has this hash in here. So that can be kind of useful. And then the last thing that I've used Slackbot for is to deal with changing language. So if as a business you've decided to replace one like commonly used word for another, you can have Slackbot jump in and remind you. So we recently changed to using the term session instead of lesson for various reasons. So given a kind of message that's like something like this, like, "Hey man, I'm working on that lesson for next week." It'll pick up on the fact that we've used the word lesson and just drop a hint saying, "Hey, we're trying to change from lesson to session." There's more here, and there's a link to the Notion glossary. I made a video about Notion glossaries a while ago. So again, like, there's kind of an infinite number of stuff you could do with this. And it's all just done in the Slack settings. If you go into customize your workspace and then Slackbot, this is where you add them basically. So yeah, that's using Slackbot to kind of to help make Slack a better place basically for everybody. I've set up this Notion database that I'm going to make public that basically has all the ones I've shown in here and the other ones that are in this Slack we're in. And I might try and do something so that people can kind of submit things to here, but it'd be great to hear if you've got any canned Slackbot responses or you think this is a good idea. Just hit me up or drop a comment on the video or something. But I'll put a link to this Notion page so you can duplicate it if you want and copy and paste them into Slack and stuff.